Hey, Isaac.
Hey, how's it going, Michael?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good, hanging tough. Trying to stay
Good.
cool. How about you?
About the same.
Yeah.
I I tend to wilt a little bit in the heat, so
You and me both, brother. You and me both.
my brain is not always the best, but hanging in there. It'll get worse.
Yeah. Sweet.
But, uh, so, how's your summer looking? You guys any?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, we had a little well situation last night. I think it ran dry. There's a lot of
Hey,
like watering and like watering the vegetable garden and stuff, and the toilet left running for a little bit. So we left it alone overnight. Seems to be okay. Seems to have been refreshed, but it's one of those scary things. So, is what
that's
it
scary.
is. Yeah, yeah, the simple things like water, you know.
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
it's there's so many things on the horizon for crisis, and that's just one of them. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like people just take it for granted. We were, God, somewhere in the last few days, we're driving somewhere around here. It
Uh-huh.
was like after a downpour, and
Yeah.
someone was watering their lawn, and my wife was like, "Really? You got to be kidding me!" Like
Right, right.
it's nuts.
Yeah.
I've never had that happen. Hopefully that is a scary thing.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, we had that happen wasn't last summer, this summer before because that was the drought, because it wasn't a drought last summer. Um, but we found out that our well was like 16 years old, or the pump was like 16 years old or something like that, and that's like maybe 3 years out of its.
Really?
So we replaced it. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where it was definitely like 3 years after the like suggested lifespan of the pump. So we
Wow.
replaced it. When we replaced it, we got like one of the like just so the well doesn't keep running when it's dry, like that well protector, that well guard, where it'll cut. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, every time the water goes out, we're really get into like, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, and then when it's fine, we just kind of let it go. But we were talking about having like a big water storage tank and all this stuff. But really, at the very least, I think we're moving to collecting rainwater from the gutters for watering downhill in the garden. So hopefully we get that together. I've been looking on Craigslist to source some like 275-gallon situations or
Hmm.
anything like that. So making that work.
That's cool. Yeah, we've looked into that in the past. I think
Yeah.
the only thing to think about is mosquitoes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's yeah, we got to figure out what like I don't know if we have to put any like tablets in the water, and if we do that, is that going to affect the vegetables that we water? Um,
I
but
think you
like you
just
can
put a
do
mesh over the top.
yeah, you put a mesh over the top, and I think hopefully that does the trick, but you never know.
Hi, Gal.
Hey, how are you?
We're talking about water.
Yeah,
Water's good.
yeah, it's like Chinatown. Yeah,
Water is good. We were just,
yeah,
Isaac had a
Keep it
little
cool.
scare. Well, we were talking about availability of it,
Ah,
and
and the quality thereof.
yeah.
yeah. How are you doing?
I'm very lucky. I'm in a controlled house atmosphere, so and an overhead fan.
That sounds good.
Yep.
I'm doing battle with our geothermal people who I thought they were going to start the process sooner than later. So I'm got through the permitting, got through the design.
Yep.
Now I got to get to the drilling part.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, Nate warned me about the permitting, and I was really on top of that. And we'll see how it goes. Next summer, I'll be in a controlled environment and without any guilt.
Yeah. It's a real blessing with the geothermal. I mean, you just flip the switch.
Hey,
Hey,
how are ya? Another person in the controlled environment.
you're muted.
Yes.
There you are.
I mean, I haven't turned it on yet. So many trees around here. It's
Yeah.
actually, just a fan has been fine so far. But yeah, looking forward to trying it someday. But
That day will come, looks like, this week.
Very soon.
yeah. It's gonna build, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it doesn't cool off overnight, then it kind of builds.
Well, it's come down at my place in the last hour from 91 to 90.
Woohoo.
Headed in the
My,
right
fa-
direction.
my favorite thing is driving up the hill. It's like an automatic 5 degrees. It's just so gratifying. Get to go home. Well, let me call us to order at 5:02. And Isaac, you up for minute taking?
Yes, sir, I'm already on it.
Cool, thank you. And just to review, I think Gail, you're up next.
Next, yeah.
Next month? Cool. What a well-oiled machine we are. Well, it's good to see everybody. I think we actually have a lot of chatting today. So I will call for public comments. Haha. No one ever wants to come to our meetings. Seeing no public, we will move on. So I think the things we got to talk about on the agenda is follow up on the all boards meeting, follow up on the select board meeting, which includes CCA and the committee charge, climate leadership program, and then heat pump options for municipal buildings, updates and minutes. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Cool.
Organized.
That's the goal. So let's see. So following up with all boards, Gail, I know you went. Nate, Isaac, either of you go too?
Yeah, I was present. But was that the? I think I was. I think I'm thinking about the one you're referring to, but that was
No.
basically they went over the charge. Is that the one? They
No.
asked us
No.
to. No.
This was
Okay.
in person downstairs.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not there.
Okay. So Gail, you want to share what happened?
Most of the discussion was in response to the fact that the mandate of the hybrid meetings that was set up for during the pandemic may or may not come to a close at the end of this term. So what would that mean for us? And beside that, what would be the preference of any and all of the committees in town for in-person meetings, virtual meetings, or hybrid? So everybody had a chance to talk about their own committee experience, very, very particular, as you might expect. Some count on it being hybrid for all kinds of reasons. Some count on it being personal. From what I heard, most wanted at least the Zoom, which gave greater access. And several people reported the same thing that you, Nate, and Michael, and Rita reported your letter, Michael. But general agreement, Shutesbury and other small rural towns out here in Western Mass would be screwed if they went to a mandated hybrid. For reasons of infrastructure, cost, maintenance, running it. It means in our town, we have one room really that's amenable, and that's downstairs, lousy acoustics. And our history is that we have several committee board meetings at a time in town hall when we all met in person. There were all kinds of meeting rooms. And if hybrid is required, it makes a huge scheduling problem. So
That's a good point.
for all kinds of reasons. So the select board was going to write a statement to deliver to our Congress people. Basically saying that,
Is there going to be like a policy for town that the select board sets out?
apparently not. it was really just laissez-faire, the way it is now. Do whatever you wish. And there are very few who really want the hybrid. One of them was the library building committee, because that meant that their consultants who are in Boston didn't have to get paid for coming out to meetings in person, blah, blah, blah. So the necessity for hybrid is not going to be true for many in town.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you for reporting on that. I guess we should have a conversation either now or soon about our preferences in terms of if there's nothing coming down from the select board, how we want to sort of move forward. Should we, you want to briefly talk about that now, or you want to bring it up another time? Because it could be a lengthy conversation.
I like
Well,
Zoom because I don't have to leave the house.
Yeah.
So simple.
Yeah.
Well, are we talking about our specific committee meeting versus like public forums and stuff like that?
I would say for a public forum, we can probably take it on a case by case basis and figure out what makes sense. So I'm thinking just for our regular monthly meetings.
Oh, I mean, Zoom is because that way I could connect right out, like at work at the end of the day from Amherst and not have to worry about it, you know, like that's my 2 cents. I prefer Zoom meetings to continue.
Okay. What do you think, Nate?
Sounds good to me. I'm like super flexible. So, I definitely see the just the logistical advantages of keeping it on Zoom. And if everybody's happy with it, I'm absolutely behind that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, especially in the winter, if it's night meetings, I'm not a happy nighttime driver. And even getting to town hall, I mean, that's not a long run, but it's.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with going with Zoom. I mean, it's more convenient, I think, for us. My only counter was mostly that based on my, work, realizing that, if you don't have, there's like 3% who don't have the connection, and those people don't feel comfortable doing it. But, I would say the fact that we don't have public comment and public arriving very often is not indicative of people not having the capacity. It's just more interest, and we're not controversial. So at least not yet. So why don't we go continue on Zoom until, we can check in at some other later point and see how it's going. And if someone says, hey, I can't get to your meetings, we can revisit it. But why don't we just call that a decision and go from there? Cool.
Do we need to vote on that, or do we just? I just noted it in discussion on ECAC preference for meetings. Gail, Isaac, Michael, and Nate would like to keep the ECAC meetings on Zoom.
I don't necessarily think we need to vote on it. Just sort of as general consensus is probably sufficient for this. How often a select board meeting, which is the other meeting, Isaac, which I think was the one that you're thinking about. So there were two parts. There was the committee charge and the CCA. I think why don't we do the CCA first? And I think, well, just to state this since we're meeting, what was clear from the discussion is that it seems like the select board's letting us be a grown-up committee. And so we can act like every other committee and not necessarily report to them. So I think that gives us some running room. And, in terms of CCA, they were supportive of Nate and Becky going forward. And then once it gets operationalized, Nate being the lead for our committee. So Nate, I know you sent that document, which is sort of the agreement document, but do you want to just speak to it or share whatever is worth knowing?
Yeah, I did forward it to the committee. I sent it directly to Becky. That was a week ago. I have not heard anything back yet. So I think one of my questions for the committee is how to, apply gentle pressure. And, I don't know if it's reminders or, people who maybe have more experience trying to get things of this nature going. Yes, Gail.
I like what you did before, and that was here's our plan. And if we do not hear back from you adversely by X date, we will proceed accordingly.
Well, this is
So-
trickier because it has to get signed.
Excuse me?
It has to get signed by Becky.
Okay,
The way the document is written, there are 3 signature lines, and they are for the 3 select board members. There's not a space for Becky
Oh,
to.
okay.
Now that might be, I don't know if that's a
That's
typo
surprising.
or, but that's how the document's structured in its signature. At least, I mean, I should call it up, but that's how I recall it.
Yeah, no, it's that. Yeah, I'll share my screen.
then
So
you
if I-
might send it to the select board members and town admin and ask, is this appropriate? Or should the town admin signature please get back to us by X date so we can,
Right. Right. And so, that's sort of, that does speak to, I don't want to step on anybody's toes if it's just sort of a normal process for documents of this kind to be shepherded by the administrator.
Well, I'll
But I-
step in, Nate.
Yeah.
I mean, I think given that I'm chair, I'm happy to carry water on this one. So, I mean, it seems like I know Becky can sign on behalf of the town. She does it all the time. So I think what I would do is just reach out to her and clarify if it can be her, if it needs to be all 3 select board members. I'm going to be in town hall on Friday, so I'll see Rita physically if it ends up that we need a select board signature and start that process. And if it's Becky, if she's in the building, I'll just get her signature. So
That would be awesome.
yeah,
just make it happen? Excellent.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. The one thing, and I'll make this. You guys can see me scrolling, right?
Yep.
So the one thing I think is just the cut and paste thing, because you got this probably from them. Where did you get
Directly.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Directly. Yeah.
So these
Oh,
all
yeah,
reference an RFP, which we didn't do. So I think I just should edit that out and sort of make it make sense. And I don't know what we would call the thing that we sent them, a letter of interest or something. But I think it would be just replacing that. But it only shows up in this first paragraph, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, I can just elaborate very slightly. So Denise Allard from Colonial Power Group wrote that, the contract, this is quote, contract makes mention of the FERCog RFP given the town was a named community. This allows the town to lean on that RFP as part of its due diligence, even though the town followed up with additional questions last winter. I believe I previously provided Nate with Colonial's response to the FERCog RFP, but I can certainly resend it if that makes it easier on your end. So there was this larger RFP process at a regional level that named Shutesbury. So I think Denise's thinking was, Colonial Power Group's thinking was, it can't hurt just to reference that here, because this, I think, all gets funneled into our larger application and,
The DPU.
yes, yeah. So
Can I guess one thing that would be helpful then, since I don't think anybody in town actually saw that RFP, is my guess. It might be in Becky's inbox somewhere, but that's probably the best it is.
But it's a FERCog FRP, it's not ours.
No, I'm just saying that we should get a copy. So I don't know if it's easier. I don't know who the point person is in FERCog for this, but if Colonial can send us a copy of the RFP, then we'd have it.
I have it.
Oh, you
Yeah.
do? Cool.
I have it. And I think I've got it here. It might be in your inbox from August 10th, 2023.
Oh,
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, I will check.
Would it make sense to attach that to this document? For clarity? As an appendix or a,
Nate, just since you're in it, or at it, how
I'm
many pages is it?
scanning. Yeah, I'm scanning the 49 pages.
I would say no.
no,
Just scanning that.
Never
But,
mind.
but I think that's. I hear you. So Michael, I'll dig for that and make sure that,
or reference
I'm not
it more
mistaken.
exactly rather than in or about.
Yeah, I think what I would do
Some
is
kind of
sort
a tie to the document.
Yeah. I think if we had an and both, like I don't think we should not mention our process because that was like the real process. This other one is sort of tangential.
Yes.
So if we mention both, so I don't. Do you want to tweak that and then just send it to me? Do you have time to do that, or do you want me to do it?
Sorry, I was scanning this document. So
That's okay.
are you
I can-
suggesting?
I was just going to make some edits to that paragraph to include our process somehow, so it's also in there. So I can make the edits unless you wanted to. It's sort of up to you.
Yeah, Yeah, if we edit this document, then I think we're sending it back to Colonial,
Oh,
Right.
right? And then getting it back and then signing it and then getting it back to Colonial.
oh, okay.
I think.
Well, I don't
This
know,
was-
actually.
This was authored by Colonial, right?
Yeah.
This is my
So we're
sense-
changing it.
Yeah, well, practically speaking, I mean, they sent it to us. They didn't say, hey, Nate, is this okay? They sent it to you, right? So I think in a similar vein, since we're not trying to, do anything underhanded, is if we just make an edit to keep their language, but include reference of our letter,
Sure.
and then get it signed and send it to them. I mean, they can choose to sign it or send it back, but I'm
Probably
hard pressed.
Or
Yeah.
make it as a footnote.
Okay, I'll give that some thought. I mean, I think it should just, it's mostly
With
for
some note
accuracy.
inserted by us, just to keep it clean.
Yeah, because I think, anyone on our end is going to be, we didn't do an RFP. Becky would ask that question. We've had a whole conversations about do RFP or not, so it would be confusing.
Yeah.
So Nate, I'll do it,
Okay.
and then I'll bring it, I'll get it to Becky, and I'll give you a heads up when it gets signed. And I think once it gets
Good.
signed, then you can reach out to them and start doing whatever we need to do.
Sounds good.
Cool. And just as an FYI, this might be relevant or not, but so yesterday, the state Senate released their version of a bill about clean energy permitting, and it was 92 pages. I scanned it last night and this morning, for like my feedback and thoughts. But I think there was something I saw in there about aggregation, because they did talk about DPU a little bit. So I don't know if my hope was that as I skimmed it was maybe there was a clarification about the MLP stuff. So I don't know if that's what it was because I was skimming for other things, but just as an FYI, it might just clarify things. But
Okay.
okay, so I got it to do, and then I'll share it with everybody. But we're moving forward on CCA, which is good after treading water for a few months. And then the committee charge. So to summarize that, what I think the select board agreed, is that we should update, Rita wrote it originally. And so the other two sort of looked at it, but what Rita's takeaway was in reviewing the original version, it did make it sound like we were reporting to them because it was all about recommending ideas to them. And they were all fine with changing that dynamic. So Rita agreed to work on it and send it to us. I had some thoughts. I sent it to her. She put it in a Google Doc, and then that's the version that I shared out to her, to you guys. So the version that you received from me was a me and Rita version. And I know, Gail, you had comments, which I can share in a minute. And Gail, did you go to the select board meeting yesterday or no? You didn't, right? You did something
I did
else.
not go, no.
Yeah. So my understanding originally was that Rita was not going to put it on the agenda because we were supposed to meet and discuss it and then recommend to them.
Right.
Becky put it on the agenda. I'm assuming there was a communications glitch or something. So what I was going to propose is we just go through the version that I shared that Gail has edits to, come up with something that we like. And then we can send it to them. I can send it to them tomorrow. So let me just get.
I could share a screen with
I got
my
it.
edits.
I got your edits right here.
Oh. You got it.
So,
Okay.
yeah, totally. So I think the first paragraph, everyone okay with the purpose, the way Gail had edited it, or does anyone have any thoughts about that one?
I think this is a little clear. I had an issue with the way evolving, seeking solutions. The word "these" kind of flowed together in order to modify goals or to affect the word goals. It seemed to me a really awkward structure, and it wasn't clear to me exactly how it flowed. But I think by adding needs and solutions to these, I think that helps. I mean, just read this sentence out loud. These needs and solutions shall include goals. Is a goal a need? It's not. I don't understand. I just don't think the paragraph's clear. I don't understand what it's saying, really.
Okay. Well, let's make it clear. This is our opportunity to wordsmith. How's the first sentence? Are we good with the first sentence? Or no? Or should we rethink the whole thing?
What is the language in the MVP and HMP? Are those goals?
Yeah.
Hey, what happened?
I wonder what that was.
It's my phone alert. Sorry.
Oh. You need to do something?
Evolving needs. It's quite vague.
Yeah. But it's meant to be broad, so vague is.
Okay.
Our needs today will be different from 5 years ago or 10 years. 10 years from now.
Yeah, I sent just as an aside, I sent a complete rewrite to Rita.
Right?
Oh,
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, top to bottom.
I had you didn't send it to me though, right?
No, because people are very
No.
sensitive about.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
The only reason I ask is that I did talk to Rita about it, like just logistically, not in the detail. We did that on email, but I had the sense this afternoon that you had a version and I couldn't find it in my email, and that explains why. And I actually was remembering correctly, but do you want to share
could we pull that
yours?
up?
Yeah, we can share it now, Nate.
Let's see. It's in charge. So I know this can be like wordsmithing in a meeting can be onerous. I only have two main goals for the rewrite, and one of them is getting to 5 members.
Yeah, which
And
she
then
was good with.
Yeah, and then the other one is I think the charge requires reference to greenhouse gases. Um, I think there's an over-reliance in the draft that we were just looking at on the concept of decarbonization.
Can you make it a smidge bigger?
Yeah, decarbonization is like super important, but you know, that wouldn't cover something like methane, you know, natural gas, or like other sources of greenhouse gases, which I would like to be explicit. Um, so
Yeah, the word is used and carries a lot of baggage, but it's never unpacked.
yeah, decarbonization.
Yeah.
It's just this. It really is just a slice of the. It might be the bulk, but it's a slice of our climate um, charge, if you will. I think. Um,
Can you move it up so we can, oh, I see, that is the,
yeah, sorry.
Right.
So I
it's a
think
left, right.
a lot of the components are the same, um, but let's see. Um, you know, I'm trying to make reference to greenhouse gases. Um,
Well, before you
I guess
do
it's
that,
quite
let's just, can we,
different.
let's do the, I mean, I do want to wordsmith it because this is important for now and the future, but for the purpose, let's just get the purpose, then we can go down to the charge, but,
Sure.
uh, the, so
I ditched MVP and hazard mitigation plan altogether because
yeah,
if you read that document, there's no reference to greenhouse gases in that document. There's no reference to fossil fuels in that document. It's kind of, I understand like it might have been an impetus to form this committee, but it's just I don't think it's a good guide for this committee moving forward as a climate action committee and as an energy. That's just like my 2 cents.
Isn't part of our, how to say it without using the word charge, to come up with goals and plans to achieve them?
Yeah, I think that is, I mean, I think that's part of the charge.
So but
I
the
mean,
way the purpose reads is as if their goals are already there and our job is to help the town meet them, rather than setting goals.
that's a good point.
That's fair.
I mean, maybe that's part one, and then we bump down 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just looking at the current one and Gail's addition of the needs and solutions. I mean, that's sort of needs and solutions drive you towards goals and projects and objectives and all those things. So, I mean, part of what we're looking at, what do we need to get to where we want to go, and what are the solutions that we want to, and then from that results in goals.
I mean, could it be something like the charge of the ECAC shall, you know, identify needs and plan goals to reach these needs?
Do you like, again, I mean, this is true wordsmithing, I apologize. I mean, I like solutions better than goals because solutions speak to sort of addressing problems or needs where goals are, they're sort of neutral. I mean, presumably you have goals to make progress, but I don't know why you'd have a negative goal, but it seems a little bit more substantive in that regard. Nate, it looks like we're working off your document for now, so.
Yeah.
I think what Isaac said, I mean, if you said the Energy and Climate Action Committee shall guide the town in identifying needs and solutions for climate mitigation and resilience.
There you go.
Something.
Oops.
No, wait, that's not right.
No. I was saying for climate mitigation and resilience.
Okay. Climate mitigation.
Good.
And I think the only things that get lost from the original, which I think are inclusive, but just to say it out loud, there's an energy component, there's an adaptation component, energy generation and adaptation, but I think those are subsumed in climate change mitigation and resilience. At least, I think for the purpose, we don't have to call it out. Do you all agree with that? Or
Mhm.
okay, Isaac, you good with that? Cool. Okay, so we have a purpose. Thank goodness. Okay, we can all go to bed feeling better. So the charge. So Nate, can you call it like, is it totally rewritten? I'm looking at my version, but you kept some of it, right? Like looks at the stay abreast you did. Here, why don't you walk us through?
Well, okay, so I read the purpose and charges of many towns in Western Massachusetts. So a lot of the language is borrowed from uh, those other drafts, and obviously you recognize a lot from our current
Yeah.
purpose and charge as well. But
Yeah. Rita stole ours from Amherst, just to note.
yeah, it's similar to, but different, I think, from Amherst. But let's see. Yeah, I mean, this really speaks to ECAC's relationship to select board.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that first one I would change. I mean, I would
yeah,
definitely say recommend to the town.
okay.
Oh, good.
And ensuring our energy infrastructure is cleaner and more resilient than what? I think you want to make it rather than ensuring it be cleaner, make it.
Yeah. And it is a little over promising too, right? I mean, we can guide, we can prod, we can
Yeah, we can't ensure.
yeah, we can't really ensure it. So so it could be something more along the lines of
Guide.
guide. Is the word is used above recently.
Oh,
It could be promote a cleaner and more resilient energy infrastructure.
there you go.
Promote
Yeah,
a more
Yeah, I think promoting is what we want.
uh-huh.
More energy efficient.
Cleaner and more resilient energy infrastructure.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
While
Yeah.
you're on the second line with the greenhouse gases,
Yeah.
I think we want to say with the focus on reducing, right? It doesn't actually say any, there's no directionality there.
Well, it's reducing communities' contribution to climate change with a focus on greenhouse gases. So it
Oh,
could be,
I guess that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
uh, yeah, and then prepare, coordinate, and execute mitigation actions and adaptation strategies that anticipate and respond to the effects of climate change.
Forward looking, I like that.
I would make that whole second thing, a second point.
Yeah,
The
something similar.
prepare,
Okay.
yeah,
Um, let's see.
If you put recommend to the town, A, programs and policies, then B, to prepare.
These are sentence fragments, which I think is okay with semicolon. Could be a semicolon here.
There you go. Saves the day. Lowercase p.
Thank you.
That's good.
And then 2 is just a slightly different formatted version of this list that we have in, let's see, number 3 of the charge in the current version, but it just breaks it out. And again, it calls out greenhouse gas reduction. So that's virtually identical to the existing charge, which lists out planning, including but not being limited to.
I know that just, let's see. It's one of the things that Rita put in there intentionally, because I think she was excited about it in the original, was the regenerative design, which.
Yeah.
The what?
Regenerative design.
Yeah.
So we should make sure that that stays somewhere.
Okay. It could be in this list.
Would it fit with G? Like infrastructure and regenerative design, or just set up? Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
How's that?
That's good.
Just technical, if you have a list like this, ABC, you do not need the semicolons after each item.
Okay.
So I have a substantive question. So in my mind, I differentiate mitigation from adaptation. And I think part of our discussions thus far were also about adaptation. So like if we talk about, we're going to have more flood water coming down Leverett Road. So how do we address that so there's not flooding? You're mitigating the effects. It's almost one and the same, or two sides of the same coin. So I don't know if it's necessary to put adaptation in there, or if we gain something by put it in there. But what do you all think?
I was just wondering if we needed to have and in that at all, because it is a list.
Yeah, you should take that out.
Yeah, the and the comma. Yeah.
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 Where were you thinking, Michael, to have?
I don't know. I know it was.
Effects.
It was in the first statement in the initial one. As among other things, they were separated out, and so I don't like I said, I don't know if it's redundant, or if it's helpful, because I mean,
right?
if you're mitigating the impacts, that's adaptation in some regards. If you're mitigating, you know, things that you're more, I mean, resilience and adaptation are hand in hand as well. So it might be unnecessary. You guys thinking?
I'm thinking, and I'm looking for where, I'm not sure exactly where to hold the cursor.
Well, I think with the highlighted text, I mean, what is the, where the rubber meets the road difference between mitigation actions and adaptation strategies? Are those synonymous?
Well, actions and strategies are different, but mitigation and adaptation might be similar.
Yeah,
Like you got to have a strategy before you act, otherwise you're just acting willy-nilly.
sure. So, I mean, we could say mitigation actions and strategies, or we could say adaptation actions and strategies, but parsing it out seems kind of silly.
Okay, I think that's okay. So I would say, looking at
What is,
that,
what is carried by adaptation at that point if you have mitigation?
I don't, maybe nothing. I mostly wanted to raise it. I'm not advocating for it.
Mhm.
Well, an
Although
adaptation strategy might be changing the mix of trees that we promote in like plantings in the county in anticipation of which ones will
As mitigation, okay.
survive. But
Yeah.
that wouldn't be a mitigation, that would be an adaptation, right? So that would be a promotion of a different species regimen
Got it.
that is a
Yep.
direct adaptation to anticipated change in the.
Yep.
But mitigation, Michael, you were mentioning some good examples about like,
Stormwater.
culverts and stormwater, and you're
Mhm.
trying to reduce the negative effects of climate change on infrastructure, for example.
It sounds like
here, I have a suggestion.
It is.
So
Leave it
on
as it
number
is then.
one, where it says recommend to the town,
Yes.
I think what I would say is recommend to the town programs, policies, and strategies to reduce the community's contribution, blah, blah, blah. And then I would make two, like make it actually a separate point, starting with the, where is it? Prepare. So prepare, coordinate, and execute mitigation and adaptation action, or prepare, coordinate, and execute two. So rather than it be a continuation, one, because policies,
I see it.
yeah. So if you make that the next bullet down, so you make it actually number two, yeah.
Yes.
Because the first one is sort of like the theoretical construct. This is
Mhm.
actually doing stuff.
Mhm.
And then you can get rid of the strategies part. And we're just left with this discussion about
The top.
we're preparing, coordinating, and executing to advance climate mitigation and adaptation. Something like that.
Execute what
The above. Like you'd execute the policies, programs, or strategies. Or why don't you we can just say act. Prepare, coordinate, and act to mitigate on mitigation.
okay. Then we're into adapt
To the effects of climate change.
Yeah. Cool. Is everyone good with those things?
You don't need the semicolon after infrastructure.
So we might have three
Sorry.
bullets. We have 3 bullets so far, if we're good with that.
good.
So on number 4, the only change I have there is I got rid of the climate science because, you know, we're not really scientists and we're not basing our stuff on science. It's more about policy and practice. So staying abreast of the current research and best practices regarding climate change is probably sufficient, or climate something or other. But I mean, ultimately it's informed by science, but it could also be informed by funding or program opportunities or town capacity.
Okay.
So
Are you looking at one particular thing? I had to take a time out there. Or are you just moving on?
I think
We were on
moving to
number
6.
Okay,
Yeah. Um,
thank you.
5 seems very straightforward.
yeah. Are there any other documents that we should reference?
I mean, not currently. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, we sort of want to nod to where we came from.
Like if there were
I
a
mean-
master plan, we would want to reference that.
Mhm.
Yes, just so you know, I pitched at our planning board meeting that we might want to have a climate oriented chapter added because we can't really do a whole master plan. We don't have the bandwidth, but we could probably
Yeah.
focus on updating a chapter and then integrating something. So you could on number 5 just reference, you know, other documents because, you know, in 5 years there might be another document that we create. Like where if we do this climate leadership thing, we're gonna have all those things that we're mandating ourselves to do. And I can only imagine the state's gonna come up with newfangled things that have plans.
And other relevant documents. You could just
Yes.
strike the and maybe just put a comma between municipal vulnerability and hazard mitigation.
Well, it's municipal vulnerability plan, hazard mitigation
Well,
plan.
Oh,
Yeah, it
sure.
would have
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, there you go.
Just make them the full titles. That's
It's
Okay.
municipal vulnerability preparedness is the plan.
hazard, pardon me?
It's municipal vulnerability preparedness.
Oh, prepared, right.
And then that's plan singular for hazard mitigation.
Plan, comma, singular.
And
And
then, and yeah, there you go.
as well as other relevant documents. Can we go back up, please, to number 2 and scratch the, which is so specific before effects of climate change? Okay, with you all?
Yeah,
Maybe that
that
works.
works.
And then periods at the end of each of these numbers to be consistent?
So I'm gonna jump us down to 6. Once you're good with that, is that Gail, you good?
Yep.
Okay. So I mostly like it. The only thing I'm questioning is the development. So engage the public and relevant stakeholders in education and planning, and the planning of and goal setting is sort of what is the development.
Okay.
So we could just take out the development. I wonder if we could say engage the public and relevant stakeholders in education and the planning and goal setting for climate action and just leave it at that.
Okay.
And scratch again the planning.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I grabbed the education. I might have grabbed that from one of the other, because I like that mandate. Like I like that mandate.
Education, yeah.
Yeah.
So on 7, the 2 things I would change there is I have to get rid of select board again, so it's the town.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
town to adapt. And I don't know if I put this in a Rita, but, and maybe we don't have to do this. I like the idea of practical benchmarks, but I don't think we would come up with impractical ones, so it's probably not necessary.
I mean, does it make sense to
Target
say
dates is gonna be tricky.
measurable? Thinking about like SMART goals, right? You know?
And specific goals, not just,
Yeah.
Yeah. With regard to target dates, I mean, we do have the 2050 statewide date.
Oh, you're right.
It is kind of, it is out there.
Yep.
And it is part of what drives, um, climate leaders,
Yep.
some of these things we're trying to do.
so that makes even more sense of measurable benchmarks. Because the target dates the state has set is at by 2030, by 2050, at levels at each point, so.
I mean, I think conceptually that makes sense. Practically, like, just assume it's the 4 of us. Like that's
Oh,
how we would come up with measurable benchmarks and then measure them over time, especially if we've got changing membership.
oh.
I don't know. I think measurable benchmarks could be in the form of just data that we gather from the town, like energy usage or that kind of stuff. Like that's measurable.
Reduce this standing amount by X percent.
Yeah.
Which is
Mhm.
what went into our
And you can
Okay.
tell.
original Green Communities thing.
Okay.
There's a climate leaders hook, right? So we're supposed to have goals built into that program, that are community facing. It'd be good to learn like what kinds of goals other towns are setting, but it could be having an e-charger in town.
I mean, one would wonder if part of this climate leader, like they have a list of goals that you can utilize to check off and see which ones would be more applicable to your town. So I don't know. I would imagine working with the person that's gonna kind of walk us through the project process, they may have recommendations instead of reinventing the wheel kind of thing, and seeing like, all right, well, for this town it's X percent, or we're looking at these metrics, or
Which is what Chris had on those slides when he was here last.
Yeah, I'm good with 7 if you guys are good. So I'm okay with that. And I think with 8, the only thing that got lost that I do think is important is to try to create a coordinated approach for the implementation. So
Regenerative design.
No, I get, actually, that's okay. We already have coordinated in there. Forget it. I'm good with that.
If we have regenerative design here, do we still need it in the list up top?
I think it couldn't hurt. I mean, we
Okay.
call out the other stuff. I mean, we could actually, you could take it out here. I don't think we need to have it here because it's.
Oh, I like explore opportunities for though.
Okay, so let's keep it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think. And do you want to, I mean. Number 9 is just a way of keeping connected to the select board.
It used to be quarterly. and I changed it to annual.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could just say to the town because we're supposed to do an annual report at the town meeting, so it could be.
Okay.
Hmm.
I mean, part of me thinks we could just leave it out because it's not really part of the charge. And if we're going to be doing the community engagement and the coordinating with committees, we're going to be sufficiently touching base with people. So it feels a little bit different now that we're not recommending things to the select board. I think the whole idea was we wanted to stay connected and keep them up to date, but it's not in the version that Rita and I had. And if she's not feeling compelled, I just get rid of it. One less thing to worry about. Cool. So we good with the charge part? Cool. So the composition, I think the only thing Nate had this great suggestion to use this as an opportunity to scale down to 5.
Yep.
So we don't have the quorum issue. Rita was good with that. She liked it a lot. I like it a lot. Anyone have an objection to being an easy
I
quorum?
think it's much more practical.
Cool.
Good work, Nate. Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I didn't mean to take it over.
that's okay. I mean, there's nothing more core than what our purpose and charge is. So, so if you want to send it to me, I'll forward it on to Becky and the select board, and they can. I'm not sure if they're meeting next week or whatever, but
Okay.
we can show up if they have questions. But I don't think it has to be in mass. And if Rita's on board with it, we probably don't even have to show up. So, okay. Where are we at time wise? Oh, we're not doing terrible. Ready to pivot? So the climate leadership program we're going to talk about. And here I'm going to share something else from my screen. I just grabbed stuff from the state website. And can you see that all? So I know, Gail, you made some inquiries about the green community good standing piece. Number 2, we've got checked off. It's the next bunch that I think would be the work. I've been waiting to reach out to the Ashfield person that Chris mentioned until we sort of had this conversation. But I mean, he said they did it in one town meeting, but I got to think they did a lot of prep going into that town meeting,
Wow.
and then they
Yeah.
presented it. Because it seems like this would be part of the work for the next, fiscal year. Maybe some of it's easy, like zero emission vehicle policy. If there's a template, we can copy it. We just can't, we have to figure out how that's probably a town
What is
meeting.
for? What does that mean?
Municipal decarbonization roadmap.
That
Mhm.
roadmap happens with the guidance of an official once we kind of put forth the letter of intent. So I think that's kind of getting, like, that's the meat of it that we're working with.
Okay,
Yeah.
they'll shape that.
Yeah. With us, they'll help us shape that.
Okay.
The thing that I was confused about, and it sounds like Isaac, you looked into this a bit more, but so I don't know, it's not quite a chicken and an egg, but understanding the order. So if you get, in order to be certified a climate community, a climate leader community, do you have to have a roadmap that's developed and approved, or do you just claim stuff and then you get a consultant to work with? You know what I mean?
From my understanding, the process goes based on the presentation and like back when Nate was introducing it a couple of meetings ago, it's the first part is a letter of intent, but the letter of intent has to follow with, I think the adoption of the additional stretch code. And that's why we're kind of waiting to do that and that, so we thought we were on the track to do this at the town meeting, but we didn't have the public forum, so that precluded us from actually having that done. So it's, having adopted the stretch code, then the letter of intent, and then with that letter of intent comes the guidance from that municipal agency to create the decarbonization roadmap. And I don't know about 5, 6, yeah, so 7 I think comes earlier.
Yeah, I actually added that because I didn't see it, but it's here.
Yeah,
So there's only 6 of them officially on their website.
yeah.
I was a little, so, and the zero emission vehicle first policy, I gotta assume there's some kind of template that we can just adopt, but that would be similar process to the opt-in code in the sense that it would probably be a town policy, which means it'd have to be adopted by town meeting. So these two things have to be town meeting votes, I
Yes.
think.
Yep.
So, and Gail, did you get confirmation? Are we in good standing currently?
Excuse me?
Are we in good standing with green communities?
I can't understand what you're saying.
For the number 1, for the green community, are we in good standing?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, what I do not know is what I asked Chris to figure out for us, please. Have we, has the town reported completion of the energy audit recommended tasks from last year?
okay.
Because until that is completed and report is completed, we cannot apply for anything further.
Does that mean we're in good standing, but we can't apply, or we're not in good standing and therefore
We're in
we
good
can't apply?
standing as we are, but we're
Okay.
incomplete in terms of future application.
Okay,
So I also asked Chris to let us know when the block 2, which would be fall deadline, applications were coming out. So that'll go into the next conversation, actually.
okay. So of these 6, we've got 1 and 2 covered. We're sort of midway on number 6. It sounds like, listen to Isaac, that number 4 we won't have to do yet. We have to write a letter of intent. We're just not here, but that's relatively easy. Does anyone have insights about what's involved with the fossil fuel use? Is that just a letter?
I can answer that. It's, as you say, just municipal operations, and it can be done either through a town meeting, a select board vote, or a master plan. There's 3 ways to get there, but I just rewatched the presentation from Chris Mason as I was like doing the notes for the minutes, rather. So there's 3 ways to get there, but town meeting would be an obvious one, just to pair it with the other 2.
Okay.
But select board, I think, can do it as well, if you didn't want to bring it to town meeting.
So I guess, tell me what you all think. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna have a special town meeting this year. It remains to be seen. I'm not sure why we would have one, but even if we did, it might, the argument is always made, if you're gonna bring stuff of significance, bring it to annual town meeting because you have more participation. That's debatable depending on the issue. We've definitely done significant things at special town meetings. But it seems like we should bundle them. Like I think we'd want to get the blessing for the letter of intent from the select board because we can't speak on behalf of the town. But for the vehicle policy, the opt-in, and the fuel use, if those 3 things require a town meeting, we should just bundle them. Sort of like how the CPC projects get bundled or the budget items get bundled, and thematically sort of go boom, 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 and we can make one presentation and then have, votes accordingly.
Tripartite.
Yeah. So I think that makes sense strategically. It's just a matter of what, if there's a forum for special town meeting. And since we don't know, it affects our pacing. If we're gonna wait till spring town meeting, we got a lot of time to do this, and then we could, better to do it sooner and just have it in our back pocket.
So Michael, you're saying to lump the vehicle policy opt-in and the fossil
Fossil
fuel?
fuel, yeah. Because if those require town meeting actions, we should just group them. And we've already got 1 and 2 checked off.
And the opt-in is the only one we need a forum for, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Because
I
that's the
know we
only one
need
that
it.
would require
It's a
what you
hearing.
call it, amendment.
Yeah,
Bylaw.
it's a bylaw. So that's
The others don't require a bylaw though, is that correct?
I
They're
don't think the
policies, but they are,
Yeah, I mean, I think with the policies, like we just with the
select board.
energy storage that that was a bylaw. A policy is just a select board. But I guess this would be a conversation. The select board could just do it. For
We
the
had part of the discussion on that zero emission vehicle. Remember, we came up with the difficulty of getting police vehicles which have certain requirements
right.
that may or may not be compatible with zero emission or at least EV.
Well,
So
how
devising
about
that policy that's practicable is going to be, but if it's a policy, that would be select board.
Yeah, but I think it isn't it like right of first refusal, right? It has to at least be considered, and it's only if it makes sense both environmentally for the operation and fiscally, right? So if it's going to be an undue burden on the town to get a fleet of these vehicles that may meet the other requirements but place an undue burden on the town, I think that is, and that might allow for application for grant funding to support these things, but it's not going to tie our hands and make us go bankrupt getting EV cruisers that meet all the requirements.
And spell out those qualifications. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I think maybe what we do at our next meeting is sort of take this. I mean, I can just put it into a very simple spreadsheet that sort of figures, that identifies each of these tasks, what the deciding forum is, whether select board, town meeting, whatever, and we come up with a timeline. And if there's anything in the interim, so like the specialized opt-in, that's going to require a public hearing as an intermediary step, and then the town meeting vote. But if we can lay it out, I think then we can just figure out the timing. And start moving forward with it. It sounds like it's workable. And in the interim, I can reach out to the Ashfield person and find out how they implemented, because it sounds like they were highly efficient, and maybe we can borrow some of their efficiency.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a good plan for now? Okay, cool. I'm gonna stop sharing. That was a good conversation. We got one more thing to talk about, which is, Gail, you want to talk about heat pump options and the buildings committee?
So I bumped into Steve Dalmas, who is chair of the buildings committee, and started asking him questions about replacing boilers with heat pumps. And it's clear that it ain't a simple question. And I had no grasp at all of the kinds of dimensions that it would pertain to, which is what prompted me to write Chris and ask, when are the grant applications going to be coming out? Because they will have definitions in that we would apply for. And my sense is then, once we have that in hand and we go through that ourselves as a committee, that we have a conversation with Steve Dalmas, who, by the way, is a building inspector for decades before he took on this. So he knows what he's looking at. Each building has its own peculiarity, of course, not a surprise. Each has its own, in some cases, sordid history. With the boiler, anything and all. But I think to help us frame even the question that we want to direct grant funding to, it's going to take some input from somebody who knows the buildings and knows that history.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having that conversation, Gail. I mean, we've done a little bit of coordination with other committees, like, you know, Nate was going to the school committee for a while and things like that. But I think really interweaving our activities and our strategic thinking with the buildings committee makes a lot of sense. I mean, if we're under stuff on buildings, they're the ones who know the buildings.
And it might be that we have it doesn't need all to be heat pumps. We could have some solar panels, even if it's not going to get us to the 100% that we wanted for municipal buildings, but a package that combines solar panels here and heat pumps there, but they're still all working toward that same lowering the energy use and getting off fossil fuels.
It's like super important to have these conversations now, because once something breaks, it's kind of too late. It's really important to lay the groundwork.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thanks for doing that outreach. It's super important.
Yeah, do you want to invite Steve to our next meeting just to sort of like start the process, or do you want to wait a little bit?
I don't think we know enough. Well, if you were to bring him to the meeting, what would you?
Well, it depends on how much you've talked to him about this stuff. Like if he knows what we're thinking about and he can start integrating it, you know, like, so I'm thinking, I'm jumping ahead to like late fall. So, you know, the capital planning committee is going to start talking about, okay, we have this long list of things that we can never afford to do. So what floats to the top? And then the finance committee will say, we've got more costs than we know how to deal with. So, you know, what are we going to do? I don't think we rate in terms of priority, unfortunately, at this point, but the buildings committee has a little bit of voice. And so if they're thinking about, I mean, to Nate's point, if something needs to get upgraded or swapped out before something dies, they would know that they can sort of, you know, introduce that into the conversation. So I think it's mostly having thinking
and structural
partners.
things. They would know structural things. Could a roof sustain the weight of
Right. So the more we build a partnership, I think we actually might get some movement on this thing.
Yeah.
So
I did not tell him that we were looking to apply for grant funding. I thought that was much too specific, but that's clearly in part of our agenda.
yeah, I will share. I was at a meeting last Friday, and there's a guy from Otis who was there, and it was a meeting about digital equity and internet access. But in the context of talking, he said that they put solar in all their municipal buildings, and they have a windmill. And I said, well, we tried a windmill 15 years ago, and that got the buzzsaw of town meeting. But I said, how'd you pay for it? They paid for it out of pocket. I mean, they might have, you know, took a loan or something or a bond, but they didn't do it with grant funding, which was just shocking to me. I don't know how yeah. So, and although they have, you know, vacation in New Yorkers, that's, I think, the only thing that differentiates us from them. They're small and rural too. So just as an asterisk, it was interesting. I
just wanted to clarify. I'm sorry for the notes. The spelling of Steve Dalmas's last name.
DALLMUS.
Oh, I was just off by one L. All right, thank you very much.
And it's Stephen with a PH.
Okay, Stephen. I just put Steve. Cool. Thank you.
So here's the question, just sort of jumping ahead a smidge. I'm going to be out of town starting August 18th for a couple weeks. So the question is, do we want to give ourselves a vacation and not meet in August and just regroup in September, and then we can invite the buildings committee to September, or do we want to try to meet?
Well,
The
you
week
just
before I go.
leapfrog July.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. It's too hot. I just
You're so
really,
eager to get that vacation.
no, wow, good call. So let's see. So our July meeting. I know the 16th works for me, not the 23rd, and the 30th works for me. Do you all have things that work better or not? So if we're going to
I'm
invite
looking at my
him,
calendar.
The 23rd works better for me. The 16th, I'm out of town.
okay. And the 30th, how's that work?
30th. Yeah, 30th is good. 23rd and 30th work for me.
Okay.
Both okay
Yeah.
here.
Me too.
Well, then let's do the 30th since I won't be there on the 23rd. So why don't we, Gail, do you mind talking to Stephen, see if he's okay to come on July 30th so we can meet
Yeah,
with
hold
him?
on, let me get your screen back.
Okay.
So did we decide on the 30th?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So you're asking me, will I talk to Stephen Dalmas? The answer is yes.
cool.
And what will I tell him?
I think I would say it's an introductory conversation between the two committees to figure out
Okay,
how we advance our charge and work with them. I mean, their charge is to maintain the buildings.
right,
So, there's an overlap there.
right. And they have, well, when the building committee got reassembled or recharged,
Yeah,
they set out a whole spreadsheet of these are the things that need to be done. He said they're still not finished. That, the building committee was so behind in just maintenance stuff but he will know well, the situation of any of the buildings, so.
yeah. And
So
I
I'll
think
invite him to come on the 30th, is that what you're saying?
yeah, that would be
Okay.
fantastic. Cool. And thank you again for doing that conversation with him.
Yep.
So, any other updates from anybody but anything else of note? Besides reminders that we're in June and not July. So we got minutes from Nate. And everyone get a chance to look at them or let's see.
I move the minutes be accepted, what's the date, Nate?
May 28th.
May 28th be accepted, be approved.
Cool. Got a second? I'll second. Okay. Any discussion? Okay.
Were any
Hearing
changes
none.
made, Nate? No.
No.
No, they were good. We've got this thing going. So I'll just call the roll. So Gail,
Yes, aye.
Nate,
Aye.
Isaac,
Hi.
and I am an aye. So minutes are approved. And that is the last order of business. And oh my God, it's 6:19. And I said we'd be doing it at 6:20. What a tight ship. Love it.
Good.
I mean, we didn't really anticipate that sojourn on the charge line by line edit. That was about a half hour right there.
That was
A lot of
excellent.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm proud of us, gang.
Yeah. I agree. That was great.
Good.
That was a great
We're good.
conversation. This continues to be a great committee. We have to find one more person to indoctrinate and we'll be all
There
set. So anyone want to move to adjourn?
I will make a move to adjourn the meeting.
I
Second.
can second.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, I'm assuming no conversation, discussion. So Gail, how do you vote?
Aye.
Nate?
Aye.
Isaac?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you all for a lovely evening. We will proceed. Eventually we'll change the world. Stay cool.
Keep it cool, right. Good night,
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Thank you. Good night.